Hi everyone, in this video we are going to be using Quarto to build a website. We're going to use Quarto within our studio and then host this website on GitHub. And today I'm going to show you a template on a professional website and I'll show you what mine looks like. But we can also use this kind of process or this workflow to build any sort of website. So I'll show you two examples that I built with Quarto. So the first website that I built with Quarto was the Stat 545 website. Maybe you're in this course right now. It might look a little bit different next time I teach this. But right now it has like a home page, different information on here, some images. The course is divided into two parts and I have some lecture notes. I have links within the pages to different websites. I have some YouTube videos embedded. So this is a really cool way to host a website. And it's really easy to do if you know the basics of R Markdown. Yeah, so this is a pretty basic kind of course website. I'll also show you my personal website. This is my professional website, which is also built using Quarto. I have links to my GitHub, YouTube channel, LinkedIn. I have some information on courses that I'm teaching. I have a blog. I have this sort of list of research projects. Another website that I built has a kind of like guest book, a form that you can fill out. So Quarto is really, really flexible. And I do think it looks pretty nice. So we're going to build something like this today. And then you can tweak it to your liking. I'm definitely not a UI expert, but I do think that Quarto can be used to make quite a simple, clean looking website. So let's get started. So we're just going to start by opening RStudio and creating a new project. So go to File and New Project. You can choose if you want an existing directory. I'm just going to make a new one and it is going to be a Quarto website. So that's an actual option here. I'm going to put my directory name as demo site. You could put it as personal website, anything like that. And I'm just going to save mine on my desktop. Make sure that you have create a Git repository checked. If you forget, I can show you how to do this after the fact, but it just makes it a little bit easier as we will be connecting this to GitHub. So by default, a simple demo website is going to appear. So we're going to have two files here, index.qmd, that's kind of like the landing page of your website. And then this YAML file, which kind of says how the website is coming together. Oh, they also make an about section, so there's another page as well. What we can do is if you're on index or about, we can just click this render button and see what this website looks like. So it'll pop up in your browser. You can see it's called demo site. It has a home page, has an about page. We have some R code in there with the output. We have a link. And honestly, if you look at how this is written, it's written almost exactly like we write R Markdown or Markdown. So that's why Quarto is relatively easy to learn if you already know Markdown or R Markdown. It's a natural extension of using that, and instead of making like an HTML document or a PDF, we're making a website. So before we go any further, what I want to do is disable Jekyll, I think that's how you pronounce it, in this project. So I am going to go to my terminal and type on a Mac, touch.no Jekyll, spelled like that. And if I am on a PC, I would say copy null.no Jekyll. These instructions will also be written on the course notes, which I will link in the description. Okay, so once you've run that command, then we're pretty much ready to go. We are going to go back to this quarto.yml file. And what we're going to do is under the preamble, so in here, we're going to put output-dir, so the output directory, and assign it to docs. Save that. Because we've made some changes to this website, what we're going to do is type in the terminal Quarto render. And what that is going to do is render the whole website together. When you just click like one file and click render, it's only going to really render that one file. And if you update the other ones, it may not catch it. So doing Quarto render in the terminal is a really safe way to make sure that everything's up to date. So if we look through this website, it's still going to be the exact same. We've really just changed a couple of things kind of under the hood. Now, at this point, everything is rendered, everything is up to date. It's time to set up our GitHub repository. So I want to set this up before I start making any kind of personal changes to the website. So if you haven't used GitHub before, sign up for an account, and I'm going to link the lecture that shows you how to connect it with RStudio. If you've already used your GitHub account within RStudio before, you should be smooth sailing. I'm going to show you exactly what to do. So if you didn't select Git as your version control, if you don't see that Git pane, what you can do, you can go to Tools, Project Options, and then select Git here, making sure that your version control system is Git if you don't see that already. Okay, so now it's all set up on the R side. Let's pop over to GitHub. Okay, on GitHub, I'm going to make an empty repository. So I'm just going to go to my profile, repositories, and click New. The repository name for your personal website, the easiest thing to do is just name it your GitHub username .github.io. Now, I already have a website that has this, so I'm just going to call it, I'll just do demo site.github.io. I'm going to leave everything else blank and just make sure that it does not generate a README. So I want README off, no template, I want it to be public, etc., etc. And I just click create repository. So this is going to be completely empty. That's totally fine. What I want to do is make sure that I have this link copied for your demo site. You can just copy it, and I'm going to use it in the next step. I'm going to make sure that all my files are saved. File, save all, and I'm going to go to terminal. I am going to run git init, so that is initializing the repository. I'm going to say git add blank, git commit, and I'll just say initial commit as my message. And then I'm going to say git remote add origin, and it's going to be that link that I copied. So it's going to say, all right, whatever repository I have, this git file, I want to sync it with this specific repository on GitHub, that demo site.github.io that I've created. I know there's a lot of words there. So I should click that and nothing will pop up, but once I push, I should get a message. So I'm going to say git push -u origin main. And there we go. Now, if you get an error, remember your branch may be called master, not main, so try changing that. And now if I pop back to GitHub, I should actually see all of those files on my repository. Now, there's a couple of weird steps to actually see this website, but we're going to go to settings right here. We are going to scroll down to pages, and you're going to have GitHub Pages. And this is what we're going to actually host the website on. So on my source, I'm going to deploy from a branch. We can leave it as that. And the branch that we're going to use is main. And instead of the root, we're going to use the docs folder. Save that. If you want a different website domain, you can customize that now. Most of the times you have to pay for them. But right now, our GitHub account, I can show you exactly where it's going to live. And what we're going to do is go to our website. So I'm just going to refresh this. And you'll see it says your website is now live at, if you just used your username.github.io, that's all the website's going to be, which is really convenient for a personal website. But because I gave it a name other than my username, mine has this /demosite.github.io. So I can visit this website. It's live. It's not just on my computer. Anyone can go to this website and see this, which is very cool. But of course, I don't want to leave it as a demo. I want to actually customize this website for a personal website. So let's do that. Okay, let's go back to RStudio, and we are going to go to the YAML file. So this quarto.yml. Instead of having it a title of demo site, I am going to change the title to maybe your name, or if you have like a username or something, you could use that as well. So that's the title. Then we have a navigation bar, and basically what it is are those kind of things that you can click through. So the pages. We have index.qmd, that should always be there. That's your kind of home page. And this text line says that I'm renaming the title of index.qmd to home. So I can show you how to customize this to have little icons, but for now, let's just keep it as home. I'm going to remove the about.qmd one because it's kind of just the same as home right now and I don't really need it. You can play around with the theme, and that's pretty much it. I want to keep a table of contents. That's perfectly fine. So yeah, right now all I've really changed is the title. So let's go to our home page. We're going to go to index.qmd and start editing this. I'm just going to remove everything here and change the title to my name. One of the nice things about Quarto is that there are a lot of templates that you can use. So I'm just going to copy some code from that website that I'm going to link below. And I'm just going to add a template called Jekyll. And that template is kind of like a perfect template for a professional homepage. And what I'm going to do is include an image and a link to my GitHub. So what I need to do is add a headshot of myself. So I'm going to create a folder called images, just in the root of my project. And in that folder, I'm just going to add a headshot of myself. If you don't have one, for the purposes of this lecture, just find like a picture of an animal or something. I'm going to use a picture of Mort from Madagascar because I think he kind of looks like me. Okay, so all I'm going to do is open that images folder in my file folder, browser, whatever you want to call it, and just drag it in there. And then it should be seen in our project right there. So I'm going to change this to whatever the name is. This is mort.jpg. I'm going to add a link to the GitHub. So I'm going to add github.com/ my GitHub username. That's not it. And we can just render locally to see what this is going to look like. So this is my professional website so far. You can see it has my name, a picture of me, and this link actually works. It will send it to my GitHub, and we're going to add a few more pieces of information. Now, if you prefer to be like very aesthetic, like if you go to mine, I have a circle kind of headshot in the middle. What you can do is just go to Canva and put your picture in and crop it to be a circle, save the image, and it will appear as a circle. This picture is actually a square. Okay, so we have the website page kind of built. We have what we call the preamble done, but we should add some lines of information about ourselves. So what I'm going to do is add my education. So I'm just going to make this up. I'm going to say I'm a graduate student in statistics. Well, what we can do is actually add sections to this website. So what I would recommend is putting your education. If you are a grad or a recent grad or still a student, I'm going to put my education. So maybe I got a Bachelor of Science, whatever. So that will add a nice section and see what the website looks like there. Yeah, so that looks pretty easy. You can add as much or as little as you'd like on this page. Just remember, it's a launch page. It's the first thing that people are going to see. We don't want too much information on the home page, so let's actually add a second page. So what we're going to do is you can either do new file and create a Quarto document here. I'm just going to edit this about.qmd page. I'm going to rename it because I want to. I'm going to click this rename button and I'm going to name it courses.qmd. So maybe you're a graduate student and you want to list all of the courses that you've been in. Well, I'm just going to delete this kind of stuff here, change the title to courses, and then we can add a subset of subsections of different courses that you're taking. So let's add your current courses, a section for your past courses, and you can list, maybe in an actual list, a bunch of different courses. I don't even know if these are real courses, but maybe you took. You can always just render, see what it looks like, and play around with it. So yeah, this one doesn't have the template on it, so it's going to show up kind of like this. The sections are segregated a little bit, so it makes it look pretty nice. You could add a link, so maybe you want to link this website that I built to show people what you learned. That's a great idea. So we can do that here. You can go to visual mode. That's probably the easiest way. Highlight it and click the link button and add the URL either to a website or the course description, the calendar on the UBC website. It doesn't really matter. I'm just showing you what you could do for these courses. So now when I go to that website, I have a clickable link that will go to another Quarto website. But of course, that could just be a regular UBC link too. Whatever. Okay, so we've created this page, but we haven't actually added it to our website. So what we're going to do is add it under this website header in our Quarto underscore Quarto.yml file. So what you can do is the YAML file is very particular with Whitespace. So add another dash at the same level as the previous one, and you can just say courses.qmd. Because this has a title, and honestly, I think index.qmd has a different title. Yeah. So because we have this title and it's just called courses, if you don't want to change it, you don't need to add these 2 lines. You can just say, hey, let's add courses.qmd. Okay, so let's actually render this whole thing together using Quarto render in the terminal. Okay, so now when I look at my website, I have courses included at that top navigation bar here. And you'll notice that I actually have a table of contents that appears on the right-hand side. So you can imagine if I had a very, very long website, this might be useful to kind of parse through the different subsections. You can turn that off if you want. You can just go to the YML file and turn TOC true, just delete that line. But I do like it, so I'm actually going to keep it. So you can add as many pages as you'd like. You could add one for awards, you could add your CV, you could add projects, extracurriculars, a blog, or a miscellaneous page. I'm going to leave that up to you, but you're just going to do the exact same thing. You can go to File, New File, Quarto Document, name it whatever you want. You can remove the format as HTML because we've already said what the format of each page is going to be in the YML file, that YAML file. And you can just add some, awards, like national awards, like NSERC, SHRC, CIHR, like regional awards, or you can just do whatever you'd like. You can add a table. The visual mode is great for that. You can, add figures, whatever you want. It's exactly like an R Markdown document, just with hosted on a website. So I am going to just add that awards.qmd file here, and it should appear the next time that I render my website. Okay, so I just want to push these changes to GitHub just to make sure that everything is up to date. So what I'm going to do is, it's really the same as any other time that I'm committing to a repository. I'm just going to say git add dot, or you can use this git tab up here. I'm just going to say, all right, anything that I've changed, let's stage it. Then I'm going to git commit. And I might say that it's the initial build. You put any message there. Then git push origin main. Then once you go to GitHub, so if I go to my GitHub here and I go to my demo site, I can see that this initial build, these commits are pending. So it's going to take a little bit for it to compile. So I'm not going to go to my website link just yet. All right, it said success. You can always go to the settings, pages, and click the link here. So now my website, which is live, has all of the things that I recently updated in my push. Oh, my awards didn't show up, and it's because I forgot to render before I pushed. So let's just do that again. Should always do Quarto render if you make any changes, especially adding a new page. So I'm just going to say awards page. So it will take a couple of minutes sometimes to sort of refresh. You can always go back to the GitHub and see the sort of progress. Okay, so it just said update it now, so now it should be updated. Yep, and now I have it. Cool. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that I like to include in my website just to make it a little bit quote unquote fancier. You can go ham at this. You can do whatever you want, but I will show you some things that I really like to add. The next thing we're going to do is add a search bar to our website. So under the nav bar, what I'm going to put is background, primary, and search, true. So this is going to add a little search bar. We can just render any page. Oh no, tab characters must not be used as indentation. Okay, so what happened was, if you get this error, it's probably because you followed along the last lecture where we did the make files and we had to use tabs instead of spaces. But now we actually want to use spaces instead of tabs. Very annoying. But what I'm going to do is make sure that this is selected, click apply to my program, to my current project, sorry. And then I'm going to go back and either use spaces, something like that, and that should solve it. Okay, so now on any one of these pages, what I have is this little search icon, and I could search awards. The word shows up there. I could search stat, and I will see any words with stat. It's really nice to have in a website. The next thing that I want to show you is how to add an icon to your navigation bar. So maybe instead of this home thing, I want an icon that's a little house. Well, what I'm going to do is just remove the text. So I'm just going to have it as a blank space, and I'm going to add an icon. They're built into Quarto. So I'm just going to say house-door-fill. Then when I render my website, instead of it saying home, I have a little door. And I will show you where you can see all the icons. If you go to icons.getbootstrap.com, then you have all of these possible icons that you can freely use in your Quarto project. Another nice feature about Quarto is that it actually supports drop-down menus. So for example, in my Stat 545 website, you can see that I have a syllabus and I have two of them. One for part 1 of the class and one for part B of the class. Even my notes, I have them grouped together by whether or not it's Stat 545A or 545B. Adding a drop-down menu is actually quite easy in R, so I will show you. So maybe I want to have a section for projects, but I want one page per project. So what I'm going to do is create a sidebar element. So I'm going to say sidebar projects. And what this is going to do is say, all right, I'm going to use this ID as projects to group pages together. Sidebar, create that section. And then I'm going to say that the ID is for projects. And now I'm just going to fill in all the details. So the title is going to be projects. That's what I'm going to see on the drop-down menu. I'm going to have it a docked style. You can play around with the styles here. Bunch of different options for backgrounds. I like a light background. The collapse level, you can just set to 2. Because I only want to click it and one list appears. I don't want lists within lists within lists. And then you're going to specify the contents. And that's where I'm going to say, well, it's going to be some sort of web page. I'm going to create a folder called projects, and I'm going to have different files for project 1 and project 2. You can add as many as you like. Okay, so this means that I need to have a folder called projects with files project 1 and project 2 in them. So let's do that. Click this create folder button, call it projects, and I'm going to add 2 files. They are Quarto documents, project1.qmd, and project2.qmd. And I can change the title of these, so maybe this is my master's thesis. And I'm going to do basically the same thing. Well, I'll remove this HTML format because I don't need it. In project 2, well, that was project 1. I'll do project 1 as a undergraduate research project. Cool. I'm just going to leave them kind of as is because I don't really want to fill them out. But I basically set myself up to have all of this included in my project. I think sidebar should be the same level as navbar. And then these are too far. Let's try this. Okay, I was on the struggle bus a little bit with these white characters. If you're having issues with this, go to File, Global Options, go to Code, Display, and then show white space characters. Because sometimes these are registering, you can see they're tabs instead of spaces. And Quarto really doesn't like that. So if you're getting errors, just check to make sure that you don't have like hidden tabs anywhere. And this should be good. Okay, let's try that. These are tabs as well for some reason. Okay, so that worked, and this is what pops up. Close that one. And you can see now that I have a drop-down menu, and I have two kind of entries here, and they lead to their own pages, 1 and 2. They're connected, so you can kind of toggle back and forth here, and they each have their own table of contents. So that's how you would do a drop-down feature in Quarto. Because you may want to show off how you built this website to someone that comes across your website, a really great idea is to actually add a GitHub link in your website. We can do that quite easily. What we're going to do is under our website, so we have things on the left, I'm going to add a little GitHub thing on my right, and it is going to have the link to this GitHub project, so that repository. So I can just copy this and list it here as a string. I can add a title for that, so maybe it's going to be GitHub. I don't want it to actually show up as just that big long website name. And they actually have a GitHub icon in that website that I showed you previously, so we can make the icon the little GitHub cat. Also with icons, if you have a website, kind of like the Stat 545 website I can show you, when I look at it on a web browser, there's a little icon here, or it'll show up on Google when you search it. That's called a favicon or a favicon. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's favicon. And it's quite easy to add. So under the website, up here, maybe under your title or before your title, it doesn't really matter. You can just add the favicon and save, just use it, save a picture and use it. I'm just going to use mort.jpg because that's the only thing I have saved in my project here. So the path will be images/mort.jpg. Okay, let's render this again and take a look. So now you can see that I have a little character up there. I do think it looks way nicer when it's a circle, so you can always go to Canva and just like save your picture cropped as a circle. And everything is here. So the last thing that we have to do once you're happy with your website is, well, this is just kind of exists on my computer. Let's push those changes to GitHub. So let's render the whole, we already rendered the whole thing. So if you haven't done that, do that again. Quarto render. We're going to stage all the files that have changed, commit them. So I'm going to say added projects and a favicon, and push the changes. So now when I go to GitHub, it's probably going to have a little pending circle. It can take up to, they say up to 10 minutes, typically it's like under a minute. All right, there it is. So you can go to the settings, but actually, why don't we just add a README? Yeah, let's add a README. Okay, so we are going to create another file in our repository. It's going to be a markdown file. I don't see it there, so we'll just add it up here. New file, markdown. We're going to copy this website page and just put it at the kind of front of a README. So let's create a new file that is a markdown file. I'm going to say here is the repository for my personal website built with Quarto, website link, and then in square brackets. And I actually want to write the link, but of course you could put like the text, you could change the text of the link. I can't remember which one it is, but I want the link and the actual text of the link to be the same. So I can save that as README, all caps, .md, don't name it anything else. Then I'm just going to stage it. And push the changes to GitHub. And those should be immediate. We don't have to wait for anything to render. So when I go to my demo site.github.io, I now have a README with the link. I have the projects. I have a link to my GitHub. So everything's linked to each other. It's super nice. I have a search bar. I have a favicon. I have a little home symbol here. So this should really help you get started with building your first website. Now there is so much more that you can do with Quarto, and you can explore the websites that I've built to have some examples. But in general, there's lots of information out there, and I hope you really have fun with it and utilize Quarto to its full kind of potential, because it is awesome. If you have any more questions, feel free to let me know. But this is the start of your personal website. Have so much fun building, and I'll see you in the next video.